All right, 10.2 is I can determine if a sample method is valid. I can determine whether a sample method is valid. So first we're just going to go over a couple vocab words. So a biased sample is a sample in which one or more parts are favored. So it's not a fair way of collecting data. So a convenient sample consists of members of a population that are easily accessed. So convenient samples when we just survey people that it's easy for us to ask questions to. Let's be a C. Another type of bias sample is a voluntary response survey. So a voluntary response survey involves only people that want to participate in the sampling. So you get to volunteer if you want to participate in the sample. Both of these methods are biased. They favor one type of response over others. Unbiased sampling is a sample that is selected to represent the entire population. We're going to go over two different types of unbiased sampling methods. One is a simple random sample. Each item or person in the population has Each item or person in the population has an equal chance of being selected. Sorry, couldn't figure out what was supposed to go in there. Systematic random sample is when the items or people are selected according to a specific interval or time period. So these are both valid unbiased methods. So simple random sample will be something like assigning everyone in the class a random number and then using a random number generator to pick students out of the class, or putting everyone's name in a hat and drawing them out. A systematic random sample is it's random, but it's based on like an interval or a time period. So you're going to the door of the school and you're surveying every fifth person who walks through, or you survey who walks through at 30-second mark every 30 seconds. So here's some examples. Some biased examples of convenient samples. So this is when you pick people that are easily accessed. That's like you could do the class next door, the first 5 students that come to my room, Mrs. Askew's class, lunch time library students, just go ask Miss Stone's students. They're all in one space when I go ask them, so it's a lot easier. But it doesn't give us that good of information. Example of an unbiased simple random sample is putting everyone's names in a hat and picking out 50 to sample. Another example of a biased survey would be a voluntary response sample. So that's when you have people call into a radio station maybe to answer a question, or readers of a specific magazine or newspaper fill out a survey. And the reason that these are biased is because if I only ask like readers of let's say a sports magazine, whether they'd rather watch football or a different TV show, they'd probably choose football because we're only surveying people who already like sports. Handing out a survey to people of a specific religion, again, they're going to have similar feedback if they all come from the same religion. So it could affect the outcome of our survey. Unbiased sampling methods, if we use a systematic random sample, that'd be like doing every 10th student who comes into the school, every 5th student in a math class. Those would both be systematic random samples. So when we design a survey, you're going to go through these 5 questions, and that's going to help you determine whether the sampling method was valid. If the survey isn't valid, then we can't really use our results to make predictions about a population. So the first example over here says, one classroom of students is surveyed to determine the theme for the spring dance. Out of 25 students, 15 chose Blast from the Past. The dance committee concluded that 60% of the students like this theme best. Is the sample method valid? Justify your answer. So let's go through those questions. Who was surveyed? One classroom of students was surveyed. What were they asked? They were asked what their theme for the spring dance should be. The way that they asked the question could affect the outcome of the survey as well. What kind of sampling method was used? Since they only asked one class, this is a convenient sample. And remember, convenient samples are biased. So Question 5, is the conclusion valid? No, the conclusion is not valid. Because they used a convenient sample. The next one is every 10th student who walks into the cafeteria was surveyed to determine his or her favorite lunch. Out of 40 students, 19 students stated that they like burgers best. The staff concluded that about 50% of students like burgers best. Is the sample method valid? Justify your answer. So this one, they did every 10th student who walked into the cafeteria. So that's who was surveyed. They were asked their favorite lunch. Question 3, what kind of sample method was this? This is a systematic random sample, which produces biased results. This is valid. So this one is valid because they used a systematic random sample. I'm going to have you do example 3 for your submission to this video, and we'll do 4 together. The library is trying to decide what types of books to sell at the book fair. It surveyed 40 students at random. The results are in the table. If 220 books are to be sold at the book fair, how many should be mysteries? So we're going to use a proportion to make a prediction based on the sample for the whole population. So 12 out of the 40 surveyed chose mysteries. So we want to know how many out of the 220 surveyed are going to choose mysteries. So we have 12 times 220. That calculator does not work. Here's my other one. It's 2,640 equals 40 times x, which is 40. X divided by 40. So x is equal to 66. Should be mysteries. So make sure you submit your answer to example